There we go.
Okay, well, we're live. Okay, welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's Investors Discovery Day live stream for today, November 17th. I have back with us once again Alex Klenman, the CEO of CRVC, Cross River Ventures. Exciting gold play. Alex, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Jack. We've got some catching up to do. There's been some news since we last spoke.
Definitely. There's been a lot of news. I mean, you've been kind of off on a tear, and the stock. I mean, you really just started trading just recently. You're getting some exciting things going. So let's kind of dive into that. Maybe you want to start. I want to kind of ask you about the acquisition that you announced last week. I'm going to pop up on the screen. Hang on a second. I'm going to pop on the screen the map. So maybe to give people a little bit of context, and this is the McVicker Lake Gold Project. Tell us a little about this. What made you pick this up?
I'd love to. So what you're looking at there is really what we announced a little while ago, which was the acquisition of a company called Northern Dominion Metals. It was a private company put together by a series of geologists who have great resumes in the business, big discoveries under their belts. This eight project package is in northwestern Ontario along some very prolific greenstone belts. A lot of gold, a lot of mines, a lot of deposits. Really, the place you want to be when you're looking for economic gold deposits. One of the best places in the world to find them, if not the best place to find economic deposits of size. What we've done subsequent to that, which was a week later, we picked up. If you zoom in there on the Lang Lake belt,
okay,
we got half of the belt basically with our McVicker project, which is contained within the Lang Lake belt. Those three balloons show you three different projects in the Lang Lake belt. One of them is McVicker, what we were calling McVicker East. That came with the Northern Dominion portfolio. But subsequent to that, cut a deal with a company called Argo Gold, and we picked up the remaining ground, essentially, of that belt. And you've got another graphic there that can maybe drill in a little bit.
I'm gonna pop. I'm gonna pop it up in a second. So essentially, Alex, what you have now is it fair to say you have a district play going at this time?
100% district scale. The McVicker project's now almost 4,000 hectares. Covers some major structural elements of the Lang Lake belt, which you want to see geologically. And the main thing is to understand where that belt lies between Pickle Crow and Red Lake in the east, or in the west, pardon me. So yeah, there's the drill in on McVicker. Those little gold dots you see are what we call gold occurrences. So those are contained within mine files of the government of Ontario. Those are historic, basically historic gold finds, nothing of size, but certainly the kinds of things you want to see within these files that indicate, mineralization is there. We're going to get into some heavy exploration in 2021. Ultimately, we'd like to drill McVicker. We think there's something sizable perhaps there, but we've got to do the continued groundwork to establish where we think the best places are to put the drills. But you can see the area has high grade, sizable high grade deposits. The Golden Patricia mine there, 600,000 ounce deposit, past producing mine. But we're in a great place, and really, when you and I were speaking earlier, what we want people to understand is these are the opening titles for Cross River. If you want to draw the movie analogy, sometimes you get a little tease before the opening credits. We just did that with these two acquisitions. Credits are rolling now, so it's the very beginning of what we think is a great story.
Yeah, no, so it's very interesting. So bottom line is, you're in the right place. There's definitely, what is it? there's a significant history of gold discovery, of mining in this area, the area you're in. So it's a great area, and most importantly, it's the right time. I mean, I think, look, gold. We've been saying for a while, maybe 6 months, that gold. We're about to get into a major bull market in gold. I mean, like the $2,000 level is really nothing. Even all the gurus that we speak to, they're also looking at 3,500, 5,000. I mean, we're saying 5,000 gold because it just has a good, it's got a good sound. But realistically speaking, there's really no reason why gold can't be trading at 3,000, 3,500 dollars within the next.
Well, we see it. Everybody sees it. I think monetary policies, fiscal responsibility, also irresponsibility. These things are contributing mightily to currency breakdowns, which also favor gold. And we're going to see money printing at an epic scale. We've got a stimulus package that'll show up here in the next 60 days or less, and that'll have a major impact on the price of gold. I think we're headed where we want to be.
So, Alex, in terms of, but even if gold stays at 2,000, let's say it doesn't go anywhere, right? Like with what you have right now, the projects that you have that you've kind of assembled in this this district scale play, this district scale gold play, in Ontario. What's what's the upside? Because I mean, our audience kind of wants to know is what's going to make this stock a 10 bagger, right?
Absolutely.
Let's walk us through kind of the process. What needs to happen to go from where the stock is to $5?
Absolutely. Well, it's pretty clear. It's not rocket science. What you want to do is you want to have somebody on board, very much with a history of discovery, and we have a technical team, headed by Dr. Robert Carpenter. Rob we've spoken about him in the past, you and I have. But Rob and his team were responsible for the Coffee gold deposit, the discovery of the Coffee gold deposit in the Yukon. The company called Kaminik, which they founded, which Rob founded. Kaminik sold for $500 million in 2016 to Goldcorp. So the team, there's PhDs, there's masters. These guys know what they're doing when it comes to geology and exploration. So that's the team, the technical team, essentially behind projects. And they were handpicked by these guys. So this isn't just a staking ground and hoping for the best. This is educated. It's backed with data. It's backed with decades of knowledge. And we're going to, our goal is to uncover the next big find. And when you look at the people we have, you look at the area we're in, you look at where we are in our life cycle as a public company, it ticks off all the boxes for an exploration investment. And, look, we've talked about this. It's no secret. In a bull market, you need to have some earlier stage exploration companies in your portfolio, 100%. We're often described as high risk, high reward. I would argue that this is less risk, high reward, simply with the provenance and the pedigree behind the projects and the people behind the projects. So that de-risks it to a large degree. There's no guarantees, but if you want to line yourself up, it's an early stage, tightly held deal that's going to be aggressively searching for that discovery. I think Cross River meets a lot of the criteria.
And from Alex, from a valuation perspective, like what right now, how many shares out? Like what's the market cap right now?
We're under 20 million. I think once all of the property deals are approved by the exchange, we'll be right around 21 million shares out.
Okay, so under 10 million market cap, basically, still.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Where we are is the very beginning. So just watch us and watch how we get things going. But there's so many boxes that are ticked. It's hard to argue against it.
So the size of the project, and we'll get into some of the other things that you have going on. But like in this size of this, in terms of the size of the project that you have now, this hang on a second, the district play here. So there's a lot of room for news flow as you do exploration here in the coming months, etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we could see, I mean, we could definitely see some, I mean, basically what you have is you have multiple catalysts right now
Mhm.
to create value in the stock between this and we'll go into your a BC project as well.
Right. Well, one of the things, listen, that you mentioned, what propels the stock? You know what propels the stock? A drill hole. That's what does it. And we have, a really good shot at making a discovery that's going to be impactful, just because of where we are and the people behind the deal. There's people say, well, how can deposits have been overlooked? Very easily. The last bit of work on McVicker really was done in the 90s by BHP. Got a little bit of their data. For example, they did a channel sample in one area. There were 34 samples taken in one specific area. The average grade of those samples was 28 grams per ton gold. So that's I mean, yes, it's not a deposit, but it's certainly something you'd like to see at the surface. I mean, some of those samples came in at over 500 grams per ton. Now, we're not going to find a deposit that has 500 grams per ton, but something's mineralized the area there. Some event has put gold into those systems of a high grade, and no one's really done any work there. The new technologies that we have for high resolution magnetic surveys and things like that really begin to tell a story that wasn't available to the people back in the 90s. So we're going to apply some newer techniques, and we're going to delineate some targets that we believe are going to be very beneficial for Cross River.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, yeah, I think one of the questions, yeah, we'll get into the audience questions. We've got audience questions coming in. Alex, do you see on the screen questions popping up?
Yeah, I see.
Okay. You want to answer Eric's question about the grams per ton?
Yeah, I don't have the data in front of me, but I do have the grams per ton, which I just mentioned from McVicker, from the historic work that BHP did. But I don't have the PPB. I don't have the technical report in front of me. The mine file report's pretty lengthy. It's actually in our news release from November 12th, the assessment report numbers. So if anybody wants to go and dig around on the internet and look at, go to our website, read the news release. You can get the file numbers there, and you can actually go and read what BHP put together in the early 90s.
So I think one of the questions, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have it, and you kind of touched on it, is, they're asking, hey, how can, if you have this great, potential discovery, how can this have been, overlooked? And yeah, I mean, this happens all the time. There's like the companies there, there's so much, right? I mean,
sure. A lot of it has to do with interpretation, because we can't see underground. So you need technical people who have the expertise to be able to take the data and interpret the data appropriately, properly, and accurately. And that's how you find these things. The last, Red Lake had a big history, but it was basically dormant until Great Bear came along and made a big discovery. And then everybody rushed back to Red Lake. The fact is the Archean, it's the eon, the Archean era is when a lot of this mineralization was taking place. So, we're talking about events that happened millions of years ago. But there's so much ground there, and there's so much. I mean, people say, one of the questions I had recently was, why did BHP walk away from the beginning work in that area? Very simply put, Bre-X. A lot of Bre-X killed mining in Canada, and it killed mining in these areas, and BHP walked. So it hasn't really been explored. Argo had a big position here. We weren't able to do a lot of work. We were able to piece this together, and it excites the right people, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, really, gold was pretty much dead up until what, the early 2000s, and then it went dead again in Canada for.
Yeah, I mean, everything happens with the metal price. I remember when we crossed the $1,000 threshold per ounce, people were popping corks in the street. Now people are yawning at 1,800. It's down $5 or $10, and they're selling. It's crazy.
You know what, Alex? You know what's crazy, and I'm not like a gold bug or anything. I'm just kind of like just a markets guy. And I remember I was having a conversation with a CEO of Oh, this guy was doing nanotechnology. Okay, this is
Yep.
you remember nanotech was like a hot
Yep.
theme in maybe 2005. Okay, so this guy was doing nano, but his background was in gold, and I told him, hey, and this is again 2005. I think gold was 700. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I said, hey man, the gold is going to be $1,000 an ounce very soon, and he was, no, you're crazy. He gave me like a million reasons,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
again, sure enough, I mean, it is 1,000. We're way beyond 1,000. But so I think people really don't realize when this thing starts, it's like a freight train. And I think one of the things that we want to do with our kind of platform with Wall Street Reporter right now is, and we were doing a lot of gold stocks, some years back, 08, 9, whatever, 7. But I think like right now, gold is getting ready for a massive move, and we want to kind of highlight, really exciting, compelling, junior miners, explorers, which could really have the most upside from a big move in gold. So, guys
Sure.
like you who have the right projects.
Right. We think we fit that criteria absolutely to a T. And again, I'll mention that checklist. We've only got 20 million shares out. We could easily do a significant raise in 2021 and still be well under 30 million shares out. That's almost the perfect amount. You have a little bit of distribution, enough liquidity. And if you hit that drill hole, I mean, let's go back to Great Bear. And I'm not suggesting that we're the next Great Bear because, that was a generational find. But
For
what I
anybody,
will
for anybody that's new, what is Great Bear and
Great
why
Bear,
compare
GBR
it
is
to Great Bear?
go take a look at GBR. They made a discovery a few years back, very high grade discovery, just south of Red Lake, the Dixie project, and it put them on the map, changed things. They had about 30 million shares out when they hit that hole. So we're in the same structural range that Great Bear was when they began their serious exploration at Dixie. I should mention there's another tie in there. The person who sold the land to Great Bear is a man named Perry English. He's also the guy who's behind the majority of the projects we just picked up with the Northern Dominion Metals portfolio. So a lot of the staking was done by the same guy. Now he's staked a lot of ground in that part of the world, but he's got a history of staking good projects. So we've got that behind us. We've got the Carpenter and his team behind us. We're in the right area that's been underexplored in terms of not just groundwork, but also not having any modern technical techniques applied to it for exploration. I mentioned the high resolution surveys. Like that. So all of those things come together. We're going to drill a hole, and I hope that hole comes sooner rather than later. But at some point, we're going to make some type of discovery in one of these projects, and that's where you want to be positioned.
Yeah. Okay. So I think again, one of the critical things is that the provenance of the project. The people, the geologists who founded, their involvement. So that's a key thing. So it looks like you got a lot of things kind of, the odds are getting kind of stacked. With these things, you never know what's going to happen, but
Right.
you want to be in a play where the odds are stacked in your favor. You have everything kind of going for it.
Right.
The people, the ground, etc. Hey, Alex, I want to ask you about TASA's gold. This is the news you just put out now. Tell us what that's about.
Yeah, it's a large property on Vancouver Island. It's in proximity to a famous gold camp from earlier in the 1900s, and we have it's almost 5,000 hectares. We have 3 or 4 zones there. One of them has just been discovered, so we want to do some groundwork, evaluate the prospects where we think we might find something of size. And but it's our one BC property. It's close to home, so we're ongoing. We've got now 10 projects in the company, and we're going to work all of them over the course of the next 12 months. I think our main focus obviously is going to be on the McVicker project, but we are getting work done on a daily basis. The guys here in BC are on the ground getting some work done now. We'll have some sample results out before too long, and hopefully we're going to start to figure out just how this BC property works for us.
Okay. Yeah, we got Eric saying that Great Bear, to give people some context,
Yeah,
the stock went from 35 cents to $18. So that's a 50 bagger. A 50
yeah.
bagger. I
Now,
mean,
now
these
those things don't happen every day. Let's be clear. But what it does is it shows you how a stock in that 30 or 40 cent range, or even 50 cent range, that's in that 20, 30 million share structure count. If you're in that neighborhood and you hit a hole, yeah, you're gonna have what drives the price up is supply and demand. There's not a lot of stock out there, and if demand outweighs the supply, boom, you're gonna have that type of return. Now, what I like is the people who are directing exploration and the drilling for Cross River have made massive discoveries before. These people know what they're doing. They're technically sound. They're among the best in the business. So the fact is that we have these people on board. They're helping us with this project and with the project portfolio because they handpicked it. They didn't pick it just because they wanted to sell it to a pubco and walk away. They did it because they believe that there's discovery here. Whether it's McVicker, which we really think is the place to be, or one of the other projects, we've got almost 20,000 hectares in prime ground in northwestern Ontario, which is a great place for mining. No real geopolitical concern. We're not going to, a dictator isn't, there's going to be a coup in Ontario as far as I know. So, we're going to be there for a while. It's a reasonably, the cost to carry these projects are very reasonable. But it opens up a lot of doors for us. And like I say, if this was a movie, you'd be staring at your screen right now and you'd see some credits rolling. And that's the beginning. You want to be there at the beginning stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to kind of, talk about this. Why is this important? Eric, brings up, Great Bear. So here's a stock that was a 50 bagger, basically in the same region where you are, right? The same,
Yeah.
same neighborhood,
Same
same,
neighborhood.
same
Absolutely.
neighborhood, same people, more or less.
More or less. I mean, look, Carpenter and Dr. Carpenter and the tech team from Northern Dominion weren't involved with the Great Bear discovery. But certainly Perry English, the prospector who staked the ground, also staked the majority of the projects in Northern Dominion, in the Northern Dominion portfolio that we acquired. So again, like you mentioned, provenance and pedigree, I think, are important. This isn't just, there's some open ground over there. Let's go stake it and hope for the best. These are people who researched what was there, the structural elements, the geological components, where it lies on the greenstone belts. Remember, the massive gold discoveries are contained within these greenstone belts. So we have, district scale, as you mentioned. We're all over these belts now with the project portfolio. We like our chances.
Yeah, so there's a good potential pipeline of news.
Yeah.
Again, so you got the provenance of in terms of Great Bear. I think what I like about that is that kind of as CRVC kind of gets better known, because again, you're only trading for what, a couple of weeks, a few months.
Well, July. We started trading
July.
in July. But really, nothing happened until we started to make our acquisitions, which is really in the last 30 days.
So the stock, I mean, basically, the stock is kind of like a virgin stock. I mean, it's not one of these things that's been around for a long time. So you have a relatively fresh story, and I think
Yeah.
once people start seeing some traction, I think once you start showing some traction, and then you will have that kind of, again, I look at these stocks in terms of from like sentiment, the investor psychology, and look, at the end of the day, these things are speculative, right? So gold explorer, it's pure speculation, for the most part. So I think once you start showing that that traction, people could then start bringing up the Great Bear story, the extrapolation, and then they can extrapolate that value from Great Bear, massive run, to potentially CRVC. So which is, I think, a key thing which we haven't talked about, but to me, as, let's say, an investor, I think that's important. We got Eric.
Let's talk speculation for a minute, and then we'll do Eric's question there. But it's funny, if you go to the track and you bet on a horse, you're going to look at the jockey, you're going to look at the pedigree of the horse, You're going to look for conditions. You're going to look for maybe has the horse had any wins before, has the jockey had any wins, and then you're going to place your bet. That's a form of speculation. If you bet on NFL football, you're going to look at all sorts of data before you make your bet. And when you look at Cross River, you're going to also find the same type of thing. You're going to have to look at who's behind it. What are the odds? Oh, it looks like I lost my screen. There we are. And then you're going to make your bet. And I think if you look here again, pedigree and provenance are two very, very important factors, and we can deliver that. And we're going to be aggressive. We're not sitting back. We're not going to sit on our thumbs. We're going to explore these properties because we know the value can only be unlocked by drilling, and we're going to do it.
Okay, so that takes us into Eric's question here. Timeline, an exploration.
Well, as we mentioned, works are right now going on our BC properties. The technical team right now is doing a lot of data acquisition and review on several of the projects. In particular, we're getting the Northern Dominion guys into the data we just received from Argo on the other side of the McVicker project, which was McVicker Lake. So that's our new acquisition. So we're getting familiar with the data there, the historical data, the work that they've generated. So through Q1 2021, targeting will be set. We'll be doing some airborne surveys, high resolution surveys, which will give us better data as to where we want to get into the drilling. We'll be on the ground in late spring, early summer on basically all of the projects. But mostly McVicker and a couple of the other ones, the priority projects. That'll happen through the end of Q1, Q2. And then it'll be just news flow from there. We're capitalized. We're going to be more capitalized as we move forward. We have no problem raising money. We'd like to do it at a higher price, obviously. But there's no pressure on us today. We raised 1.7 million a couple months ago. So Treasury is good. And so, really, these things don't happen overnight. You need to, in the old days, and I say the old days, my God, it was just a few years ago. If you bought into an explorer, the expectations was that was a 2-year deal. You were buying in, you were going to give the explorer 2 years to find or not find something, and then you make your call. Right now, people are, they trade out in 2 days. So we're trying to tell people, look, make your bet, get in here, take a look at what we're doing, and we're going to do a lot of work in 2021. There'll be a lot of catalysts. Everything we do is new, really new news on these projects. So they're all going to lean the right way, and we'll see where we go.
Okay, excellent. Alex, to wrap up, I mean, just let's say top 3 reasons investors should consider CRVC today, right now.
Perfect. Number 1, we've been public since July. So our outstanding shares are tight. We're in the early days of our life cycle. We have a robust portfolio. I don't know if you're going to find an explorer at this stage in the game with 10 projects and such a heavy presence in northwestern Ontario. People who pick the projects, as we mentioned, and the provenance as to who staked them. Some great people. We have knowledge, we have expertise, we have history. And we're just at the beginning. The credits are still rolling, so you haven't missed anything. If you want to sit down and enjoy a good story, it starts right now.
So get your popcorn ready, and because we're about to start rolling here. Okay, Alex, great to have you back, and we're going to catch up with you probably in the next week or two once you get some more news. So we'll have you back.
Yeah, we've got more news coming. We're active. We've got things on the go, and we'll put out some news in a week or so here that'll improve the story.
Fantastic, Alex. Thank you again.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it.
Okay, all right. Let's get ready. Let's get ready for our next presenter. So again, thank you for Alex. Again, thank you everybody for joining us. We're going to bring in Appia Energy in just a second. And by the way, anybody who's watching, we are definitely join our channel on Discord and also on Telegram to get those updates throughout the day. Let's see, Appia Energy. Do we have? Wait, hang on a second. Let me take this out. We got James Sykes.
Hi, Jack. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, man.
Hey, where is Tom?
Tom's on the road, actually. I'm doing the duties for today. I'm going to get to present Appia Energy for everybody.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I was like, hey, I thought Tom. Okay, so let's do. Okay, so you, I love it. It's always, this is great about the live thing is it's always entertaining, right? So James, are you going to share a slideshow, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, sure. We'll talk a bit.
Okay.
I think that's probably good. But then I do have some of the slides that I'd like to talk to, just to emphasize how good Alsace Lake really is.
Okay, fantastic. So what we're going to do is essentially open. You're going to do like a screen share. Have you done this?
Oh yeah. I'm very familiar with all of this. Yep.
Okay, so just as soon as you're ready, let me know, and I'll actually no, you can do it from your end. You can do the screen share, and it'll pop up, right? Okay. Yep. Let me just get this. Okay. Okay. Let's get situated here. We got a lot of people actually. Okay, here we go. We got Appia Energy. I want to just pop this up so we'll be prepared. And you know what? If you can just show like the main slide. Wow. James, you're a pleasure to work with. You're very technologically advanced.
I don't think I am, but yeah, I've done this enough times that it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, excellent. So let's get started here. All right, we got a full house of investors here. Okay, welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's Investors Discovery Day live stream for November 17th. We have with us a returning presenter, Appia Energy, and we have the chief geologist, which is James Sykes. James, you're here for the first time, so welcome.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
So James, we got, we have a lot of people who are who've been waiting for you. You're here by popular request.
Hey, that's awesome.
But for anybody that's kind of new to the Appia Energy story, kind of give us like a quick snapshot, and then talk a little bit about your background and how you got interested, how you got involved with this project.
Yeah, that's easy enough to do. So Appia Energy, we are a rare earth and uranium exploration company with focus mostly in northern Saskatchewan. The Athabasca Basin is famous for high-grade uranium, which is basically how I got to join on with the company. At the time, uranium was their forte, and so with my background, having made quite a number of discoveries, or being part of a number of discoveries in the Athabasca Basin, that I felt this was a company that it looked very promising for moving forward and potentially making a discovery. So we got into this going forward. We focused, in the early stages with my joining in 2016, looking at uranium. But then the rare earth market it took off. 2017, the prices for rare earths just jumped, and so at that time, Tom had already staked the Alsace Lake property back in 2011 with a prospector. So we had this property, we knew the grades were there, but we just didn't know the extent of it. So yeah, with the rare earth market coming back, we decided this was the time to start focusing on Alsace Lake. And this is where the Appia story has taken us today. We've gone full blown into Alsace Lake, and rightfully so. The grades that we see up there are phenomenal. It's a lot going for it.
Okay. Before we get into Alsace Lake and Appia, let's talk about your background again, a little bit more about your background, because I think one of the key things with any of these exploration deals is, the track record of the people involved. So talk about some of the big discoveries you made, and especially we got a lot of new people, so maybe you can throw in some references to stock prices or some sort of metrics that they could relate to, not just tonnage.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would be familiar with the stories that I can throw out there. So when I started my career, I was in uranium exploration in northern Saskatchewan, Athabasca Basin. I started with Denison Mines, and that was back in 2006. So I can consider myself a vet in the area now. But while there, one of the things that I really helped look into while I was relogging core was the area that became the Griffin discovery. And so that was one of the areas that I had brought up to the JV partners at the time. Cameco was, let's look in this area. And obviously the senior geologists to me, they were the guys who were really behind everything that led to Phoenix. And it did lead to, the geophysics that went into targeting Griffin. So, I was very fortunate enough to be with the original guys at Denison who planned out all of these target areas. Then I decided to go to Forum because they had phenomenal geologists there that I really wanted to pick their brain and work with and learn more about uranium exploration. And I'm very grateful that I went there and did that. However, that was 2008, and everybody knows what happened in 2008, good old market crash. So Forum kind of had to buckle down and they had to let me go. But being the great guys that they are, they actually got me onto Hathor Exploration, who had made the Rough Rider West discovery at the time. I think a lot of people in the uranium space know Hathor as probably being one of the most successful uranium junior stories in the 2000s. And I think Hathor is successful in what it had done was being a junior going out and making discovery. That really pushed the whole junior uranium market in Athabasca area. So at Hathor, I did a lot of geology there. I came up with a model that predicted the structural elements behind it and led to 2 more discoveries. So after Hathor, Rio Tinto bought us out. I wasn't a big fan of this whole corporate mass scale strategy. So it's not my cup of tea. I like to explore and be very active. So I left Rio Tinto and I actually got on with NextGen right away as their chief geologist. So if anybody knows the NextGen story, I hope you do, because the Arrow discovery was the one that my colleagues and I were famous for discovering. So that was very nice.
How did the NextGen stock do, and how did the Hathor stock do with when you were there?
Hathor stock did wonderful. It was basically a penny stock, 10-cent stock, and I saw the price go up to $4. This was
40x.
Yes, this was at the tail end.
This is what we're looking for, James. We're looking for 10x to 100x.
Absolutely.
So you're like halfway to what we consider a respectable number there.
Absolutely. It was a great, and that's why the investors made a killing off Hathor, and rightfully so. It was a lot of things going for it. But that's one successful story. You look at NextGen Energy as well. When I joined the company, we're sitting there around 30, 20 cents. And now you see where NextGen has gone up. That's seen $4 as well. I think $4. Anyway, it's floating around 2 to 3 nowadays. That's still
it's over 10x. So you have a history of multi they decade bagger. Or they're not 10 baggers. They're whatever 28, 40.
Yeah.
So okay. So they're
huge. Their investors made a lot of money off those. Yes.
Okay, so that's a good start. Well, that's why I'm asking, because it's always good. You know what? Look, success attracts success, and I think once somebody has a track, it just it just continues. So that brings us to Alsace Lake. So I'm gonna pop this up on the screen. So tell us what you like, how you got involved in it, in terms of what you like about this, what makes this unique, and what are your expectations here. And I'll let you control this, the slides or whatever, however you want to tell the story.
Yep, Alsace Lake was originally, it was just surface showings. So back in 2011, again, Tom and a prospector had staked the property, and it looked very, very juicy and very, great grades there. But they were just boulders. There was no real meaningful discovery. Boulders, anybody can take a boulder sample and say, oh yeah, we got great grades, and you never know how they actually sampled it. So in 2017, when the prices were booming, I went out there for a couple of weeks, just me and 2 other guys, and we did some pop tenting and climbed up the hill every day. That was fun, good workout. But what we decided to do was expand on what had been done in the past, but also look for the sources, direct sources of these zones. And so we started peeling back a lot of the moss and just seeing these zones of massive monazite right there, right in your face, and just being able to prove that there was continuity and just the excitement there. It's it was like something I'd never seen before. I don't think many geologists have seen anything like this. You're talking about outcrops with 25% of your mineralization. You're talking about 85% in some of these circumstances. Now, I have to note that this area was originally discovered back in the 50s. Okay, they blasted 3 trenches, so they knew that there was radiation there, but they hadn't uncovered the surface, unless it's all grown over back since then. So that's where a lot of the boulders had come from. But when you see how covered up these zones were, you couldn't make heads or tails of it. So that's exactly why we had gone in there and just started peeling everything back and really looking into, how big are these things? How continuous are they? Because if they're just, if it's a small little thing, it's never going to go anywhere. So as we did that, we started showing the continuity, we started showing the size, but having these other discoveries that we made just outside, to me, it just kept showing that, hey, this is a lot bigger system than what we've seen in the past. Than we can imagine, than what the previous guys had done. So, it started building up a lot of confidence. And it was a right time to get into this whole thing and really pushing the rare earth story because, as you know, the market is there right now.
Yeah, there's definitely, and again, I think for anybody that's, that may not understand what rare earths are, James, can you kind of explain like what the uses are worldwide, why this is so important?
You name it, man. They're everywhere. You can't even turn a corner nowadays without seeing some sort of rare earth application. I've even read reports where rare earths are being used in medicines. These things are rightfully termed they're the fruits of technology. They're the seeds of technology. And I think the Chinese have done a great job back in the 80s identifying that right away and saying that, hey, we can use this for that, we can use this for that. And the rare earths, it's a suite of 15 elements that occur together mostly, and they've all got their own little applications. Like neodymium and praseodymium, they're used in magnets. And a rare earth magnet, if you've never held those together, oh man, they're insanely strong. Just trying to pull them apart, it's ridiculous the amount of strength in them. And then there's a good reason why these magnets have been adopted into a lot of technologies, phones, computers. You're looking at medicinals, MRIs. Electric vehicles, wind turbines, all of these things that are coming on pace now, on stream, and our governments are adopting to them. These are all rare earth applications. And so this is big news, and this is where the industry needs more supply because demand is forecasted to just keep growing.
Yeah, so basically, the rare earths are critical for our kind of technological age, right? And what's happening though is, let's talk about the supply side. The supply is a little bit constrained, right?
Dominated by the Chinese, for sure. There's no doubt about it.
And they want to kind of control it, which means that it might shut off supply. There's strategic needs for it. And where does Alsace Lake fit into this?
Alsace Lake represents a possible scenario for North America to help develop its own rare earth supply chain. That with the Saskatchewan government, the Saskatchewan Research Council, back was it August, that they announced they're looking at putting in a rare earth extraction and oxide facility that can handle 3,000 tons per year. This thing's going to be scalable, but it's right there,
right where you are. Basically.
Man, this is my hometown. I'll be able to drive there in 5 to 10 minutes once it's built. So yes, it's right here, right in Saskatchewan, easily accessible, right in the same jurisdiction as our project. So with the grades that we've seen up there, and seeing some of the size that we see potential out there, this is where we think that we can do a meaningful contribution to North American rare earth strategy, supply chain strategy, that we can. The cost for us to mine things out of there that we've done internally looks pretty simplistic, looks pretty small because you're mining things that are already pre-concentrated. Whereas a lot of these other companies out there, they have to concentrate up to what we have occurring naturally. So it's basically a mining scenario. And then SRC, they've got the experience, they've got the technology, they've got the knowledge and know-how, and they've got their flow sheets already designed to handle monazite. They're not reinventing the wheel on this. They've got it all done. It's just simple project where we can mine it, boom, ship it off to SRC, and they produce the oxides for us. Doesn't get easier than that.
So I'm waiting for the audience questions. We had a lot of interest, and everybody, what are they, being shy? Okay, anybody who has questions, pop your questions on the screen. We'll have James answer them. So James, let me ask you this. Okay, so what's right now? The company's raised a bunch of money recently, right? You guys have closed on some financing. So what's going to be what's next? Kind of give us the timeline for Alsace Lake. What's going to happen? Like, in other words, because our audience, they're looking for that next 10 bagger essentially. And can this, can Appia Energy be a 10 or 40 bagger like some of your previous companies?
Well, let's actually switch to the PowerPoint for a second here.
Let's grab that. Okay, here we go.
I'm gonna jump through it and just get to some of the important parts about why I think that Alsace Lake can be the big thing. Obviously, grade. You can find this on our website. The grade is there. When we look at the high grade, it's almost incomparable to other deposits around the world. All monazite, very simplistic. And we've got high concentrations of these things. That's me with tweezers on the left-hand image, picking individual grains. That was my Christmas present to Tom, was a jar of monazite sand. But it was that easy, rare earth magnets. What I want to show you is how is this going to be a 10 bagger? With the area that we've been working in, a little bit lag, the area we've been working in, what I call the main area is 100 meters by 150. That's not large on any scale, but we've got a number of surface showings there. And we've been able to follow these a little bit at depth. But what's more important, though, is that we've now, after this past summer, we have found the trends that these are following. That's huge from an exploration standpoint, that we can follow these trends. And as we're drilling, we're stepping outside our normal boundaries here. We're hitting this whole mineralization system everywhere. There was no drill holes that really missed on the exploration side of things. So we've grown from 100 to 150 meters the size to much larger than that. With the system itself, you can see in this picture is, you've got massive monazite there, but on the peripheries of it, you do have this other type of, it's still the mineralization system. And this is what we're finding. It's wonderful stuff that it's something that I had hoped, but now that we have actually proven it. So even in here, you can see how this system works. You've got high grade, and then you've got just this overlying system. Now, 16% total rare earth oxide over 15.5 meters. That's massive. That's really freaking good. And that's within 10 meters of surface. That's not even open pit. That's just trench work. I can go up there and blast the stuff myself and haul it out in my back. What I want to show you is this. This is where your 10 bagger strategy lies, your 40 bagger strategy lies. It's not just in what we've discovered, it's the potential for discovery, what I like to call the blue sky discovery potential. So on this image here, we've defined the mineralization system along 2 subparallel trends, and we can follow those for over 875 meter strike length. There are a couple things that are happening there from a geological standpoint that I'm still trying to figure out myself, but they're continuous. And we've found them as deep as 340 meters from the surface. So we know that we're not just seeing it along strike, but we're also seeing the system play out at depth. So this is turning out to be a massive, massive area just in this little image alone. Now, if I go to the property as a whole, we can find mineralization over 45 kilometers in different zones along this property. And that's the mineralization system. We're following what we know with the controls for the 2 subparallel systems. That's where we're going to be able to apply this now to the geology of these areas and start having more meaningful exploration. So by moving forward, what we plan to do is follow up this property with a completely covered with airborne magnetics, radiometrics, and EM, just to see the geology so that we can start pinpointing, hey, that looks good. That's where we expect the system. Let's go there. Once we have that done, then this is where we can follow up with some additional ground geophysics. This summer was successful in the fact that I think we've actually found a geophysical survey that will work and pick up our system. As it's, we drilled it. I drilled a number of holes on one fence just to target a lot of these anomalies. And every time that we hit where the anomaly was, we're hitting our system. So before, we didn't have anything to target from. We just had, here's what we see at surface. We can make some inferences where it's going at depth, and that's it. But now that we actually have a system, and we're finding with that, we're actually finding the potential for more of these systems to occur. So it's not just 2 subparallel systems. There's a potential for 3, for 4, maybe even more. So to go back in this summer, or this 2021 coming up this summer, that is the plan, is to cover some of this, to cover the property, not the entire property, but areas of interest with this ground geophysics. So the AMT survey. And having that will help us define more targets. So we do need a very strong geophysical push on this property, as our surface exploration has been very successful in itself, that almost anywhere we go, we've been able to find the system. But now with what we know from just this past drilling, there's, we've got geological controls, we've got geophysics that works. This is how we start making bigger and more meaningful discoveries. This is how we push this property into becoming North America's next big rare earth play. And with it, you can see on this map, those are all surface discoveries. How much better do you get than that, than having things occur at surface? It doesn't get better than that. That's pickaxe and shovel operation. So we're not looking for open pits. We're looking for trenches, things that can be permitted in a matter of years, a couple of years. We're not waiting 10 years. We're not waiting 15 years to get into a mining scenario.
Oh, so that makes, and that's what makes this so compelling, because this is just the economics of it.
Absolutely, it's a no-brainer. It's huge. Like from the uranium side of things, we use uranium as a pathfinder. And once you get on this trend of uranium, you just basically follow that along the structure. This is slightly different in that we're not looking at the same time intervals, but in essence, it's the same as any exploration that you see elsewhere. If you're looking for gold, the best thing you can do to find more gold is follow gold in the first place. We're finding rare earths everywhere on this property along certain trends. All we do is have to follow those trends. With the geophysics to really pinpoint us in those areas, that's exploration. So that's the game plan for this summer coming up. More geophysics, more diamond drilling with specific targets in mind, but also some more reconnaissance, because there are other areas out there that we just haven't been able to access. But also with a radiometric survey, we can find more areas at surface that will help us understand the whole trend in itself, but also where to go deeper.
Okay, so the key. Okay, so the key is going to be the geophysics to identify more targets and to really kind of show the potential of this property.
Yep.
Okay, we got some questions coming in here now. We got Bremer. Bremer was actually, I think he was one of the guys asking about you. When can you show up? When can James Sykes be on? So he's asking. If you can see it on your screen, right? Okay.
Yeah, sure can. So when would we be? Well, do we plan to be? Yes, I think we do plan to be. It's just a matter of, can we find more to come up with a resource? What we have discovered already at surface, that can be mined. That can be extracted. That can be sent down to the facility in Saskatchewan. We would need to do a little bit of work before that, such as environmental studies, and then also trying to get a road in. But that is something that we are potentially going to be able to do that. We're hoping that we can be one of those first companies in there to supply SRC.
Okay, and okay, so it sounds good. I mean, it sounds like you're in the right place. Hang on, we got more questions coming in. We got Gerald asking, will SRC only separate the rare earth ore, or will they also separate 15 individual metals?
Currently, in Canada, at least, there is no metals fabrication facility. What SRC can do and have done is, yes, they can extract the oxides, so they can get to that point. But then after that, you need your blast furnaces, you need your metallurgical facilities to get that extra step. And that's, in all honesty, where I think North America really lacks, is that part of the supply chain. Oxides is basically as far as we'd be able to take it, which is still quite a lot of value added to Appia in itself. If North America can prove to have a viable supply chain up to the oxide side, I don't see why it wouldn't happen to get that the metal producing side, which just adds more value to everybody involved.
Okay, so in terms of okay, so what about in let's say in the intermediate term? Our audience today, they're news junkies. They want that news flow. What can we expect? Let's say through the next couple of months.
Yep. So we did put out news today. Actually, we put out news that we've raised $2.6 million, which will go towards Alsace Lake funding for the summer. But also we will have some news coming down the pipelines in the coming months. One of the things that we are working on with the SRC is to start some metallurgical studies. This is one thing that we do have to do. Although we know that our mineralization is basically all monazite and it's very simple, it's like an SRC can do it, it's still something that we need to do. There's another element that we have in our, as a potential byproduct from monazite. We're actually going to be doing some other studies to confirm that it is coming from monazite. I personally believe it is, no matter how many times I try to look at it. That element is gallium. Gallium is another critical element, deemed critical by the United States. And it's one of these things that, again, is controlled by the Chinese and the Russians. So we've got naturally occurring high grades of gallium. I was actually talking to one of the scientists at SRC about this yesterday. And he's like, okay, well, how do you guys want to do this? What do you guys want to use to look for? What are your concentrations? I told him, well, if we ship out 4% TREO, which is very low, we've got over 100 ppm gallium. He's like, what? That's unheard of. That's really high concentrations. So yeah, well, if we ship out 60% TREO, which is what we should be doing, then our gallium's like over 1,000 ppm, and he just lost it. So this is naturally occurring high gallium, which right now, if you look up, gallium's got it's going for about 205 kilos per $205 US per kilo. Pretty high value to it. So this is something else that we also have on the supply chain, or potential supply chain from Alsace Lake. But this is why we need to start these metallurgical studies, is not only to prove that we can extract the oxides from our monazite, but also to remove gallium. Myself, I am a nuclear bull. I believe in nuclear energy. So being able to separate and extract thorium and uranium, I think that's also another big potential byproduct that exists on Alsace Lake. It's like a gift that just keeps on giving up there.
Okay. Okay. So, James, let's kind of wrap up here. We're almost out of time. In your opinion, top 3 reasons why investors should consider Appia Energy today.
We've still got a very tight share structure out there. A lot of it's held by insiders, which as we continue to progress Alsace Lake forward, that shareholders can definitely reap the rewards on what we plan to do with this. The blue sky potential on this property, by having more discoveries and getting to that resource stage, is massive. That's major growth for the company. And just being in the rare earth market in itself, this is the time to be in rare earths. Just like uranium. Uranium's on the cusp of going back up. Repeating 2006 to 2008, which again, we are also a uranium exploration company. We've got uranium assets that we can always go back to as well. But right now the focus is on rare earths, and there's a huge screen for rare earths. This is a market that will continue to grow, and meaningful growth. This is necessary for our society to continue. We need rare earth elements. Without it, we're just going back to candles and sticks. So I personally think there's a lot of potential out there for investors with Appia.
Excellent. On that note, James, I want to thank you, and we're going to have you back hopefully with Tom next couple of weeks with some more good news.
Thanks a lot, Jack. Been a pleasure.
Thank you, and thank you everybody.
Everyone else enjoyed it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, James, and everybody. And we'll see you on the next live stream.
Take care.